What's up, peeps? It's the Wigman, aka the Wigician. And today, I want to talk to you about how to free yourself from emotional constipation. Now, to set the frame for this conversation, what is emotional constipation? Well, it's the feeling of being stuck in your internal world. And the programming that compels us to keep ourselves in this fixed state is often pride or fear of vulnerability and being seen. And the cheat code or hack, mind hack, to free ourselves out of that state is by first giving ourselves permission to feel. So the best space that I've found for this to happen effectively is through the practice of meditation or sitting in silence. Because what happens is you are just being with what is while you're listening in on your breath. And your breath acts as the crank that churns out all that toxicity out of your mind. Because what's happening is you think of your mind like a snow globe, and all day it gets shook, right? Now, if you just allow that confetti to settle, you work with the physics of your mind, you will eventually have a mental space or dimension of peace. But it takes time for that emotional constipation to move through you. Hey Bella, welcome. And so another way to think about this is you put a pot of water on the stove. Now, meditation is turning on the heat and allowing that water to reach a boiling point. And if you give it that amount of time, then once the water is at that point, you can throw any problem into your mind or anything that's challenging you, and it will process through it in record time. So things that you might have been dealing with for 10 years that keeps perpetuating itself, cycling through your thoughts, to hold a full presence around that issue and looking at it from every angle without the need to act on it by sitting in silence is a extremely effective way to process through that challenge. You can also think of it like a thought or emotion has momentum. And when your mind is in a constipated state, it's like all these thoughts and emotions have wound each other up into a ball where you can't see or think clearly. And the best way to move through that is allow each of these threads of emotion to untangle itself, and it will do so naturally through silence. And a lot of us don't know how to be with ourselves in silence because it forces us to sit with our shit. But it is the most direct path for helping us through this feeling of stuckness. Now, if you can't get yourself to sit in silence, then the next best thing is to practice journaling. Because journaling is a direct path to watching exactly what thoughts are showing up in your mind in real time if you allow yourself to share them openly on the page without judgment. And that's the key. You treat the page like it's toilet paper, and it's going to get flushed down in water and no one will be able to see it. You could also consider burning it. So if you allow yourself to fully accept how you're feeling through words, that also has an alchemical effect on your mind, and it releases the valve. It opens up the dam for the emotions to flood through you and wash out of you. But it all comes down to the level of pride you have and the amount of vulnerability you're willing to indulge in, and if you're willing to give yourself permission to go there. And so this is a process, it's a muscle, it takes time to develop, but it's totally worth it, because then you can fully rely on yourself to move through any difficult issues you're facing and free yourself of that feeling of stuckness. The last tool that I'll invite people to think about is using a pillow to cry into if you feel concerned that someone's going to hear you. Because if you yell or scream or pour out into that space and fully give yourself permission to feel, then again, it releases that dam of emotions that have been stuck behind the pride or the need to be strong or the need to protect yourself and your fears. And the shame and the self-hatred and all these other emotions that rush through you are just feelings. They're not who you are. And that's another important part for you to remember in this process is you're not wrong for feeling these things. These are universal frequencies of vibration. And you just have to allow yourself to feel them. And on the other side of going full circle back to that point, you'll realize that it's just toxicity that needs to move through your mind. So when you go out on a camping trip and you haven't taken a shower in a week and you're heading home, the only thing you can think about is getting under the water and washing your body. Now, a lot of people just simply aren't aware of the fact that their mind is in a similar state, or there's so much grime caked on itself with past resentments or feelings of frustration or things that have gone wrong that you don't realize how you're getting in your own way and that you're itching and agitated and frustrated and wanting to be free, but you don't know how. And these three tools, meditation, journaling, and pillows, can be extremely effective tools for helping you free yourself of these negative emotions. You can also just generally think of it like mental hygiene. If you're not on point in how you feel, then you can assume that you have not done the daily practice or you haven't given yourself the time to process through whatever toxic emotions or thoughts that are agitating your consciousness at that time. And until you give yourself the space to allow that to heal, it will just continue compounding in its effect. And here's another last thing to think about that's interesting. When you cut yourself, the natural healing happens without you having to think about it. So oftentimes when you are in a state of emotional constipation, you think you have to do things. And that's why I started with meditation as the foundation for addressing it, because it's the act of doing nothing. And nature will naturally heal you if you get out of the way. But if you think you can and force yourself to fix the issue, all you're doing at some level is scratching that scab. You're agitating, you're itching at something that wants to naturally heal on its own. And that's what prolongs the process of you moving through this emotional constipation. So the next time you are enraged or you feel on edge or frustrated or in any way negative, I invite you to take some time out to sit in silence and just be with those emotions, because it will naturally move out of your system if you allow it to. These are the laws of the physics of your mind. And you allow it to settle, and it will bring you peace of mind. And again, if you don't have the ability to do that, which is kind of silly to even assume, because everyone can, it's just that we give ourselves excuses for why we're not able to. But other tools at the time, if you're not available to sit in silence, are writing freehand with a pen and paper, without judgment, and allowing yourself to experience and express anything that's coming up in the moment. And in your moments where you are in full privacy or you need privacy, and you go to your room, cry into your pillow, yell into your pillow, feel that emotion, and it will free you from the stuckness that you're experiencing. So I hope that helps you today. Much love. Be well.